Hi friends, it's Cindy Wabi. I just got off the phone with a client and had a difficult conversation, and it's a conversation I have rather often when people bring me estate jewelry and they bring me appraisals. So I wanted to just have a short conversation with you about the reality of appraisals, jewelry appraisals. And in this particular situation, this gentleman brought me a large diamond solitaire pendant, beautiful piece, and it was his late wife's, and he had an appraisal that had come with it. She had bought it in a jewelry store, an estate jewelry store, or either at an estate sale. It had an appraisal on it of, I think, around $12,800. And he said, I'm going to want $10,000 for this. I won't take a penny less. And I had to have a difficult conversation with him that these little appraisals that folks get from events at department stores and from stores that they buy their jewelry from, or when they have special events, say at an insurance agency, and they tell you to bring your jewelry in and they'll appraise it. These appraisals are really worthless when it comes to determining the actual current resale value of a piece of jewelry, what it can sell for today on the secondary market, what you can get for that piece in the real world that you and I live in. And as I looked at that appraisal, I looked at all of the specifications of it, and they all, from an appraisal standpoint, looked legit. But then I realized that the dimensions and all of the specs on that particular solitaire did not match up with the size and the weight and the clarity of the pendant that I was looking at. So he had the wrong appraisal for the wrong piece of jewelry, and he not only was very disappointed to learn that his pendant was not worth the $12,800. He found out that the certification did not apply to the piece that he had. A couple of years ago, an executor contacted me and brought me a beautiful ring. Some people call it a cocktail ring. It's also called a ballerina ring, and it's a beautiful ring, and it came with an appraisal, and I have that appraisal in my hand. And this appraisal was done many moons ago. So they felt that not only was this ring was it worth what was on the appraisal, which is $13,000 plus, but it probably had also appreciated in value because this ring was purchased about 40 years ago, and the appraisal was done at that time. And so they were wrong on both counts, and I explained to them why an appraisal that is done for insurance purposes, and that's what it says right here, insurance copy, is not relevant today in terms of helping us determine how much a ring sold for. And I looked at that ring and I knew the situation. I knew that this executor was in a really desperate situation to create some vast revenue to be able to pay for some really critical expenses in the estate, to be able to put the house on the market. And so I said, what I'd like you to do is take this ring to some reputable jewelry stores over in Eugene and maybe in Portland, and get an outside independent opinion of the true resale value in today's market that they would they would put this up for sale in their shop for, and then bring that back to me in writing, and I will pay you whatever they say. Because I was willing to purchase this ring for my own personal purposes, and that's what they did. They brought it to me, and I purchased it at what an independent jeweler with accreditation said it was worth. And if I had been purchasing it for my store or to put up for sale online, I would have given them about half of that value, because for those of us who work in the retail secondary market, we have to have some room to pay for the expenses of having pieces cleaned, repaired, authenticated. And we also have to have some wiggle room for negotiation, and somewhere in there I have to make a profit. So I purchased this piece. But if you notice on this appraisal, it's got all kinds of great detail, pictures. It talks about the weight and the clarity and the color. And then back here on the very end, it has a valuation of $13,100. And it says total estimated retail replacement value. Retail replacement value. That's a critical term. Sometimes these appraisals will say things like for insurance purposes only, or they will say a replacement or fair market evaluation. Those terms matter, but when you get an appraisal like this, it is not going to have a valuation that relates to what this piece of jewelry is going to have for a price tag when I put it into my case or another jeweler puts it into their case out there. And have you ever watched Antiques Roadshow, right? And somebody brings something that they picked up for a song, to the appraiser, and they tell you, in today's market, this would be worth $60,000. And oh, the shock, I only paid $3 for it. And then they say, but for insurance purposes, I would insure it at $125,000. So there's a difference between real market value and the insurance value. And the reason for that is, and why do we insure things? Let me pop it off on that just for a second. Why do we insure things? We insure them to protect ourselves monetarily in the event of a catastrophic loss. So you go out and insure that item for $125,000. You are not going to get $125,000 if your item is lost in a catastrophic event. What you're going to get is a negotiated value of what the true market value is. So in my experience, and it is felt in my industry as an estate liquidator and jewelry dealers who work in estate jewelry specifically, that these appraisals are grossly inflated. They are quite often at least twice as much as what a true market value is. So when you buy a piece of jewelry at a jewelry store or a chain store, and they give you a little slip of paper and they say, this piece, we guarantee this piece is worth X number of dollars, it's not true. Jewelry stores and chain stores that sell jewelry issue valuation little certificates that aren't certified really to justify the prices that they ask for their pieces in the jewelry market. And in my experience, and I have bought and sold retail jewelry on a retail basis, and I've attended large jewelry sales, wholesales, where they come in and they lay millions of dollars of jewels out on tables, and buyers from all over the world come in. There's a pretty substantial market in the retail jewelry business. I would say at least 300% in most cases, until you get to a private jeweler or designer, and that's going to be a little bit different. I'm also wary when they have special events and they tell you to bring your piece in, and maybe your first appraisal is free, and then each one is $100 thereafter, and then they've got insurance policy plans that you can purchase to insure your pieces. In my opinion, the only one that wins there is the insurance agent, because if you take your piece in and somebody tells you, ooh, yeah, that piece that you purchased is worth a minimum of $20,000, I would insure it for $20,000. The higher the value of your items, the higher the premium. But that number that you were just given is not relevant in today's market. True insurance, true policies, or true appraisals for actual valuation in today's market cost money. And I always tell people when they come to me and ask me for an appraisal, let me take a look at your item first to see if it warrants the cost of an appraisal, because appraisals require they require homework, investigation. They require looking at comps and doing a lot of work, taking photographs, measuring, doing research, and then issuing reports. I frequently am called upon to give what are called letters of valuation, because particularly in trust situations, then you need to have what's called a time of death valuation. So the trustee will contact me and say, I need you to go into this home, or I need you to look at this particular item and give me a time of death valuation. And what I do there is then I do my research and I issue a letter saying that this is what this item is worth in the secondary market today, at this moment. This is what we can sell it for. And things are worth what someone will pay for them. Not what a piece of paper says, but what someone will pay for them. And in most cases, I have a pretty good finger on the pulse of that. But I just want you to know, and I'm not in any way advocating not getting appraisals on your items, not insuring things. I am not advocating that at all. My husband and I both have standalone policies on items that we consider to be of considerable value, and that if we were to lose them to a catastrophic event, we would want to be compensated for them. And so I'm not advocating that, but I do want you to know that these fancy looking appraisals that you get are for the most part worthless to me, and they will be worthless to you if you are trying to sell your piece. What I do find helpful on these items is that they give us the description of the pieces. They tell us what they're rated, how much they weigh, if they're a lab-created stone, if they're a natural stone, or if they've been enhanced, the color, the clarity, all of those sorts of things. Very helpful in turning to other sources then and coming up with a valuation. But I would not encourage you to go out and get appraisals on every piece of jewelry that you have. And if you have any question at all about whether or not what you have is valuable enough that warrants the investment of a certified appraisal, and appraisals can cost anywhere from $400 or $500 on up to several $1,000s, bring your item to me or send me some pictures and call me. I'm here to be of help. The last thing I want to see you do is A, get snookered, or B, walk out of somebody's office or store with a piece of paper that you think tells you one thing when it really tells you another. But thanks for your time. I hope this information is helpful to you, because that is my intention, is to help and be of service to my community. Have a great day. Bye-bye.